Hi everyone, very good evening to you. As usual, we are going to look at the market again, and I'm going to start off with the US indices, and I'm going to talk about the Singapore index and the various stocks that I have covered last week. So I would like to do a follow-up on those stocks and um, share with you some stocks that may potentially move off based on technical analysis. Okay, so without further ado, let's look at the Dow. As you can see from the chart, last Friday's candle, right, the US index actually has kept up and attempt to move up higher. So this movement actually is most welcome, but unfortunately towards the second half of the day, you can see that it start to have some selling action. No doubt it's still close positive, but the candle pattern suggests a certain degree of weakness. And this uncertainty, although is not huge, but still a cause for concern. Now, what we need to see is that to overcome such an uncertainty, we need to have strong buying pressure to shake off the selling pressure during the intraday. And what I just want to highlight is that what kind of confirmation that we are looking at. So usually at the high, for example here, to shake off the sellers or uncertainty over here, we need a white candle confirmation. And so as is here, so if we don't get that, if we get a black candle like this or like this, there might be some selling. So it is very important that tomorrow night, because US market is closed for holiday tonight. So tomorrow night we see an improved candle color, which turns to white, and a higher closing above 34632 for the Dow. We may see more upward movement towards the resistance at 35089, around that, thereabouts. Okay, so far we have seen a steady upward movement, no major weaknesses as yet, but still we got to look at candle by candle, day by day, to ascertain the directions for the Dow. Now let's take a look at the S&P 500. Very similar to the Dow, if you look at the candle itself, a higher opening, attempt to move higher, but selling pressure push the counter to close lower. So the index itself generally still moving up, no major cause of concern of any weakness, unless if there's sudden breakdown below 4181, this level, or 4182, then we may see some downside. But as of now, the indices or the index itself for S&P 500 itself, it is still on course to move towards 4238 resistance. As we can see that if this level can be broken, then we are heading for another all-time high. Let's move to Nasdaq 100. Nasdaq 100 is similar, very similar to the rest, but of course, the only difference is that Nasdaq 100 was attempting to break out from resistance over here, this 13,733, but unfortunately didn't manage to break through. The upper shadow suggested some certain uncertainty, and if it can't break through this resistance, hopefully tomorrow night it can break out from there and move to the next resistance at around 13817. And once it breaks out from this resistance, then we can have a more upward movement towards its all-time high level at 14,073 level. Now, if the index decided to take a break over here, then we may see more downward movement if the index moved down below 13,614. So it's very important to look at the candle for the next few days to see where the direction is heading to. Now, looking at the STI today, STI did not perform quite well today. In fact, early positive movement was dragged down by sellers. By around 10 to 10:30 a.m., the selling starts to come in, and most of the stocks start to turn red. Especially the banks has started to turn red in the early trading sessions, the first half of the trading sessions, so to speak. So if it actually fill up the gaps that it has created last Friday, and it sort of give some confirmation that there may be some more pressure, selling pressure coming in. Okay, so if there is more selling pressure, the support level at 3145 has to hold in order to maintain the next higher low. Of course, just to follow up on last week analysis, is that if you remember last week my analysis on STI, right? I was here at this point where I mentioned that despite STI forming a number of candles that shows us uncertainty, the lows itself is suggesting that STI is gearing for more upward movement, and indeed we see a breakout happening, and the upward movement bring the STI towards the 3200 level, but it didn't touch that level as yet. So today we see some selling. So if the selling pressure continue towards the support level, and let's hope that this 3145 support level hold, so that it can form the next higher low and resume its upward movement. So let's look at individual stocks in different sectors to see what are the chances that STI can establish that. So let's look at the banking counters. So we can see here that DBS has a black candle today. But before I go through the latest analysis, just to follow up on last week analysis, is that last week we were here on this black candle, and I mentioned that DBS is going to rebound to retest its resistance, and indeed it had, because I do not see weakness in other banks as yet. So it broke out last Friday, but today, unfortunately, it did not manage to continue. So it had a black candle. But the good thing here is that the selling pressure isn't that strong, as the volume is quite low, right, as compared to its buying pressure. And in fact, the selling volume is as low as volume around here. Right here, as you can see that the volume around here is quite low as well. So what I'm trying to put across is that this kind of low volume may just tell us that it's just a temporary setback for the index, and there might be some rebound coming, right, once this counter finds some support. So today it actually fall back to support level at around $30, which was the previous recent now turn support. Now, if this support cannot hold, then we have the next support level at around 29.69, where if it can hold well at this support level and rebound, the next higher low can still be formed. So let's watch further. We have OCBC next. OCBC went up very close to its resistance at 1261, but unfortunately didn't manage to test it. So it forms a bearish confirmation for its doji pattern that was formed last Friday. So just to indicate here. So going forward, what we are looking at is that if the pullback continues, the support level will be at around 1219. And again, similar to DBS, the positive takeaway is that no doubt we have a black candle confirmation. The selling volume isn't that high. So what does that mean to us? Okay, I'm going to explain in a while. Let's take a look at UOB first. So similar to OCBC, it forms a black candle confirmation to this shooting star pattern. So this is the first confirmation after many shooting star pattern has been formed. So yeah, so this on the face value itself, it suggests there might be more pullback. Okay, there might be more pullback, and the support level for UOB is at 25.81. Now, having said that, of course, let's take a look at the volume again. So if you look at the volume over here, we are looking at OCBC, DBS, and UOB, right, having sold down with a lighter volume. And with that, it may tell us that it's not a major selling, and we can take comfort from that. So there is still chance that the market may, right, turn around if we have a white candle that minus off or negate this black candle. So what we need is that a candle that of equal length or even longer to negate such a black candle and the upper shadow. Now, of course, if it doesn't happen, the next is to watch for the support level and see whether it can hold or not. So do watch for the next few candles, and very importantly, watch out for the support levels, because one very important observation in terms of the bullish market is that in the bullish market, support holds. Now, in the tech sector, last week, I mentioned about UMS and AEM is likely to continue to move higher. And the UMS counter that I mentioned, remember this inverted hammer I mentioned last week, that inverted hammer has brought Frencken to its new high. Well, this inverted hammer brings UMS to its high, and indeed it has. So UMS has been pushed up northward to its resistance at 1.43. Today, last Friday and today, it attempt to break up from this resistance, but this resistance seems to be a hard nut to crack. As we can see, upper shadows, this means that the resistance breakout failure. So with that, we have to watch out. Now, if this counter don't attempt to break out from its resistance again, we are looking at the next. My apologies for the disturbance. Okay, so we are looking at the next level. If the breakout doesn't happen, if this UMS move below 140 here, okay, 140, and it may pull back further, slightly lower, maybe to around 138, form another base, and then reverse back up. Okay, so it looks like this. So it pulls back to 138, rebound back to test resistance, and this time around it must break 145. Okay, over here, this shadow high, 145, then it can have chance to break out again to move towards the next resistance at 148. Okay, so this is where we are looking at the next potential movement if the breakout didn't happen to takes place immediately. Okay, so as of now, UMS still look healthy, right? Despite the upper shadow is no strong concern. There's no strong concern of it as of now. Now, AEM, last week I was also saying that AEM looked to move up higher because of the higher low. If you remember this, I actually plotted this. This higher low suggests that there might be more upward movement, and indeed AEM move further northwards. So what we are looking at is that the strong white candle closing today, short shadow, long body, and the volume has picked up, suggests that this counter may move further to fill up its gap over here going forward. Okay, so would it be a straight, direct close up, fill up? This one, of course, nobody can tell, but we can see some positive trend over here where you can establish higher low and higher high. So this is where you can see uptrend right now. It may have a slight pullback, go up again after the pullback, then fill out the gap. So, but as of now, it's still positive. So I'll be watching the further development of this counter. Now, Frencken has been hovering at this high for quite some time, struggling to move higher, as we can see upper shadows, and today it ends slightly lower. Okay, so will Frencken pull back? Last week, I anticipated that some pullback may come, but it hasn't happened as yet. So will it happen again? Now, if it doesn't pull back, we would likely to see some consolidation going on as the stock struggle to move up to the next level. So it may consolidate along the range here, then decide the next movement. So if it has decided to move up, it will have another breakout, and this time around it will clear 180 level and then move clearly higher. So we shall see. So my anticipation is that there might be some consolidation if the struggle carry on, and the swing may be around from 169 to 180. So we shall watch what's going to happen to this counter. So if this counter break above 180 immediately, we shall see more upward movement. But if this counter were to break down 169, then the next support will be 160. Okay, so far we still maintain a positive on this counter as of now. Nanofilm, right? Last week I mentioned that I do observe upper shadow as it goes up and candles of uncertainty, and I do hope that it had a pullback before it rebound, but it doesn't pull back. So the next candle start to show some strength, and then eventually it move up and test its resistance at this level at 550. So 2 consecutive days from the counter. So there are 2 consecutive from the counters to attempt to break out from this resistance, but fail to do so. So today we see a long candle with long upper and lower shadows, medium-sized body, but the volume is very light. So this means that the struggle isn't that strong as of now. So we have to watch further. So what to watch going forward? A few things. Okay, so one thing is here. So are we going to see the repeat of a history again? So the next few candles very important. Okay, so at this point you can see that there's a long black candle, but volume light, very light, and then some rebound, attempt to rebound, and the volume was very light as well. And then suddenly there was a breakdown coming in. So here, would there be any repeat of history again? No doubt that the candle is not as black, as long as this over here. Here and here isn't that right the same. But of course, we still need to pay attention to it. Okay. Now, if this counter is ready to move up, right, we shall see something like this. Okay, so it pull back, but then it doesn't move lower. So it doesn't have a gap down like this. It doesn't have a gap down like this and a long black candle like this. In fact, it will be something like an opposite here. Okay, so if you observe the characteristics of this counter, is that typically at the high, it will have candles like this. After long white, you have a long black candle. So after a long white, you have a long black. So after long white, so we have a black. So then after that, it has consolidating movement. So we can see that the candles or the price action doesn't move too much over here, you can see, and then followed by a black candle to suggest that the price will potentially be driven lower. So here we have the same thing. So you move up, volume isn't that fantastic, then suddenly there's a long black to drive the stock's price lower. So the next few days, will history repeat itself again? A very important piece of information that we need to observe in order to determine what is the next potential movement for Nanofilm. Okay, so with this, the first thing to take note is that if it pulls back this support level, potential support level, so many of you may have know this term called Fibonacci retracement. So I'm going to plot the Fibonacci retracement levels for us to take note. So why do I use Fibonacci retracement? It's because that this counter has gone up one straight line, right? It doesn't have any regular pullback. So there is no so-called near support to look out for. So normally traders will look at Fibonacci for some retracement. So we talk about Fibonacci 38.2, 50%, 61.8% are the support levels. Okay, so how do you plot Fibonacci? Is fairly simple. You just take the low where the run start off, and then to the top where the potential run, the run may potentially end, and find support level if the stocks were to pull back. Okay, so we have $5.27, $5.16, and then 5.05 for next potential support level. Okay, so we shall see if there's any pullback coming in for Nanofilm. Right, as of now, there's no severe action needed for this counter. Innotek, last week I mentioned that there's still chance for the counter to move up. The counter indeed managed to hover at its high over here. There are some consolidation going on where you can see that the stocks is trading within this range. Okay, just to put it to context, we can see 985 seems to be a hard nut to crack. Right? It is ultimately still a previous minor resistance. Then we have this low at 95 providing a good support for this counter. So we shall look at 985. If it can break out above 985, of course clear 99, then the stocks potentially will move back towards 102 level. Now, if this counter were to move to 95, right, and be supported again and rebound back to 985 and break out 99, then of course 102 has a good chance to be tested. But if it doesn't, of course, if we break below this 95, then the next support to look out for is 89, then followed by 825. Okay, so stay tuned for a breakout from Innotek. Then we are going to look at this property sector. So we are going to look at property and property related sector. And let's start off with Capitaland. So Capitaland, for the last 2 days, it has been trying to move up, but didn't manage to do so. So we can see it established a lower high in terms of the candle. So you can see the candle high getting lower and the candle lows are getting lower as well. So this may suggest a certain weakness. So in order for us to negate this weakness, we need to have a candle that breaks upwards to shake out all the sellers over here. And how do we see the sellers get shaken out? The stocks has to close around 370 level or above. Okay. Now, if we're to zoom in further, we can see some positivity for this counter. First, we see that it closed as a white candle today. Now, as it forms the highs and the lows, the volumes are declining. So in contrast to these lower highs and lower low, is in fact more positive. So from here, why is that more positive? Is that because the volume has been declining, this tells us that the selling pressure isn't that strong and could be only selling could be only done by retail scene. So here we need the buyer to come back, the strong buyer to come back, possibly some institution, and then help to propel the stocks back to 370. Then a breakout from there could see the stocks go higher to 373 or even much higher at about 377 to the ultimate high at 391, which is approaching the deal price. Okay, so let's see whether this can happen. City development gradually, steadily move up, right? Ever since I mentioned in the video last week that after the stocks gotten the confirmation for the bullish harami and the hammer pattern, so the stocks has been steadily moving up. So congrats to those who have taken action. And here we are looking at it moving towards its resistance at 778. So today it closed as a decent white candle, still not too bad. So we shall watch further to see whether is there going to be a more positive upside. As of now, we don't see any strong selling pressure as yet. UOL, as I mentioned last week, needed a breakout, and I thought that breakout really came on Friday during the intraday. So when it hit 748, it was a nice white candle, but unfortunately the buyer did not follow through as the counter started to close lower. But the good thing here is that the trading volume isn't that high, so meaning to say the stock still has a chance to break out. Okay, so if we can cross 748 this time round, this high, then we may see more upward movement towards 766. Okay, now back to property related counter. Many of you who has known me would know that, or view the videos before, know that I do a daily stock analysis other than the video itself, and this stock analysis has been emailed out to some clients of mine. And what we are looking at is that we have this wonderful counter called Propnex, and it was highlighted personally to some of my close clients as well, who has been regularly in contact with me. And what we can see from Propnex over here from the chart is that it has moved up solid up towards this high at this 169. And how did it happen? Well, let's share this screen with you. So it was on the 24th of May, right? And I was doing my usual analysis about STI, about Hang Seng, and then here comes Propnex, where I observed that the selling pressure has been dry up. So I'm looking at a potential surge in price action and buying pressure. And then my initial target was quite conservative at 1.32, and that represents a decent, almost a decent 10% rally there. So here we can see that in fact it went past the 132. In fact, after highlighted the counter the second day, it went straight away to 132. Then the next day it followed through with a gap up, and then another day it gap up again and go up and move up. And this morning, in fact, it gapped up again and then moved towards 169. But selling pressure start to come in. So first, I like to extend a congratulations to those who have taken action in Propnex. Next is that I would just like to highlight first, the upper shadow represent uncertainty, selling pressure. The black candle represent another type of selling pressure, although it's not long, but the long upper shadow has as it, or rather is taking precedence, and we are looking at the extremely high volume of selling pressure. So it suggests uncertainty in its recent upward movement already. So there's some concern, cause for concern over here. There might be some pullback. Okay, again, if I were to use Fibonacci, if this is the perceived high, okay, this is the perceived high, then we are looking at, you know, a short-term Fibonacci where the move has run off. Then we are looking at support at 145 and 137 respectively. And then if 137 cannot hold, then 130 will be the next support. Okay, so if the stocks is still bullish, I would expect 145 to hold as a very good support level for, or as a very good support for this counter. Okay, so let's move off to the next counter. Last week, I did highlight the Sembcorp Industry. I mentioned over here that the stocks seems to be moving off, forming a higher low, right? And indeed it happened. And congrats to those who have taken action. And we have seen this counter growing strength to strength every day. And it has moved up. Intraday high was a decent 11% gain, but it closed 2.22. So not that strong, because we do see a long upper shadow suggesting some selling pressure. But the good thing is it managed to close above its resistance. If you remember last week, I targeted 2.19. So it broke out from there, broke out from 2.19 and 2.20. And then now it's trading above its resistance. So what caused the selling pressure to come in? Because during the intraday, it was fairly strong until I think around 10 or 11 or so, that I received a notification that there's some downgrade from one analyst saying that the stocks is fully priced in. So this may cause some reaction in the market. And if it really pulls back, then we shall see that if it breaks below 219, then there might be some more pullback coming in, then maybe towards the 2.08 support level. Okay, so we shall see whether the next few days is there going to be any pullback, or if this counter can move up above to 2.28 again and break out from there, then we may see more upward movement from this counter. But of course, until then, right, if we move up to 2.28, then the high will be around 2.43. That could be tested. Okay, 2.43. Now, last week we also covered the Monte pack, and the counter has been going strength to strength. And if you were to take note, today is a nice white candle. Look at the volume, fantastically high, very nice, and the trend continue. And just for some educations for those who are following this counter, just in case if you are wondering why the stocks kept up. In fact, this stocks paused for 2 days, forming a quick bullish pennant formation, and then break out and then continue higher. So the projected level will be, the conservative projected level will be around 435 as the trend continue. Okay, so yeah, congrats to those who have taken action into their Monte pack. And then last week I mentioned that Comfortdelgro needed a breakout. Today it attempted to break out, but the breakout isn't that successful, as it formed a doji over there. As the Singapore market works towards the reopening, so-called, so to speak, reopening, as we are on a tighter restriction. All right, the market that may anticipate that this Comfortdelgro may have some improved business going forward. Of course, the market is also excited about the future project that is coming, like the charging station, etc. So we shall see whether Comfortdelgro going forward can it cleanly break out this 170 resistance. This time around, it must close above 172 in order to continue to move up towards the next resistance around, the next major resistance around 178. Okay. So with this, thank you for viewing the video. Just in case if I were to miss out any stocks that is of interest to you, and that may be potentially moving off and you needed some analysis, you can always leave some comment in the YouTube video, and then I shall look into it, and then I will analyze it together with you. Okay, so have a good week ahead, and good night to you.